So here we need to find out the value of the given trigonometric expression. So let us begin. So here we are given cosine of 40 degrees times cosine of 80 degrees times cosine of 160 degrees. Now none of the trig functions have a standard value. What we'll do, we'll use the transformation formula to find out the value. Now if we consider the first two expression, the product of cosine 40 degree and cosine 80 degree, so here, since we have product of cosine function, so that should be transformed to give us the sum of two cosine functions. So here we'll be using the formula 2 times cosine of A times cosine of B equals cosine of A plus B plus cosine of A minus B. Now in the case, we don't have the 2 factor here. All we have to do is multiply and divide by 2. So we get half times 2 times cosine 40 degrees times cosine 80 degrees times cosine 160 degrees. So we'll apply the transformation formula to 2 cosine 40 times cosine 80 degree. So this will become equals to half. So here, let's take 80 degree to be A and 40 degree to be B. So we are assuming that A is greater than B. Then we have cosine of A, which is 80 degree, plus B, so that's 40 degrees, plus cosine of A minus B. So we have 80 degree minus 40 degrees. All multiplied to cosine 160 degrees. So that will be equals to half. So we get cosine of 120 degrees plus cosine of 80 minus 40. So that's going to be 40 degrees multiplied to cosine 160 degrees. So let's try to find out the value of cosine 120 degree because that can be easily obtained. So cosine 120 degree, so this can be also expressed as cosine of 180 degrees minus 60 degrees. Now we have cosine of 2 times 90 degrees minus 60 degree. All we're doing is rewriting 180 as a multiple of 90. So here 2 is an even number, so we get an even multiple of 90 degree. That in that case, that cosine function is going to remain as cosine function, but the new angle is going to be 60 degree. And also we'll have to check the sine. To find out the sine, we'll have to find out in which quadrant 120 degree lies. So here 2 times 90 degree tells us that we are in the second quadrant as indicated by this number 2. But we are also subtracting 60 degree from it, but 60 degree is an acute angle, so therefore it's still going to lie in the second quadrant. Now in the second quadrant, only the sine and cosecant is positive, everything else is negative. So we get negative cosine 60 degree, and cosine 60, that's a standard value of half, so we get negative half, meaning cosine of 120 degree has a value of negative half. So we're going to replace this cosine 120 degree with negative half. So we should get half multiplied to negative half plus cosine of 40 degrees times cosine of 160 degrees. Now let's multiply cosine 160 degrees to each of the terms within the parentheses. So we should get half multiplied to negative half times cosine 160 degrees plus cosine 40 degrees times cosine 160 degrees. Now what we'll do, we'll factor out negative half from within the parentheses. So we should get negative 1 over 4 times cosine of 160 degrees minus 2 times cosine. So let me write 160 degree first times cosine of 40 degree. So now we can again apply the transformation formula. So we now get negative 1 over 4 times cosine of 160 degrees minus we have cosine of A plus B, so that's going to be 200 degrees. Then we have positive cosine of A minus B, since we are multiplying with negative, so we get negative of cosine 160 minus 40, so that's going to be 120 degrees. Fine. So let's further simplify. Here we get negative 1 over 4 times cosine of 160 degrees minus cosine of 200 degrees. And we have already obtained the value of cosine 120, so that came out to be negative half. And since it's negative cosine 120, so we get positive 1 half. Now our goal will be to obtain the value of cosine 160 and cosine 200. So let's apply the same idea. So cosine of 160 degrees, so that can be expressed as cosine of 180 degrees minus 20 degrees. Now whenever we have 180 minus 20, so that's going to be cosine 20 degrees. In the second quadrant, we are going to get negative value. So we have negative cosine 20 degrees. And then coming to cosine 200 degrees, so we have cosine of 200 degrees. So that can be expressed as cosine of 180 degrees plus 20 degrees. So since we have an even multiple of 90 degree, 180 is 2 times 90. So cosine is going to remain as cosine. New angle is going to be 20 degree. But this time we're no longer going to be in the second quadrant. We're going to go to the third quadrant. That's because, so here 180, that's 2 times 90. As indicated by the number 2, we are in the second quadrant, but we are adding 20 degrees to it. So addition takes it to the third quadrant. So in the third quadrant, the tangent function is positive. So we're going to get negative cosine 20 degree. So now that we have the value of cosine 160 and cosine 200, let's substitute it here. We get negative 1 over 4 times. So cosine 160 will be negative cosine 20 degree. Then we have negative of cosine 200 degree. The negative, so cosine 200 being negative cosine 20, so we're going to get positive cosine 20 degree plus 1/2. So we cancel out cosine 20 and negative cosine 20, and our final result is going to be negative 1 over 8. We have cosine 40, cosine 80, cosine 160, that came out to be negative 1 over 8.